Hey everybody, last time I made veggie stock, you know how I make it from my frozen veggie scraps, and I'll show you how I do that. But last time I did it, I decided I wanted to try to cook it down into a thick paste because I have so many quart-sized jars of canned veggie broth that'll last me ages. So I'm running out of space to put all these jars, and I thought, well, what happens if I cook it down into a thick paste and I have my own veggie bouillon that's totally SOS free, no added salt, no added oil or sugar. And so I gave it a shot and it worked out really well. I told everybody in the Well Your World Facebook group and they insisted that I made a video. So I'm making a video showing how I do it, but here's what it comes out like. It's this, I have almost a whole jar and it's a nice paste. Even when it's frozen, it comes out as this nice movable paste. So it's very easy to take just a little bit, add it to a jar with some water, shake it up, mix it up, whatever, and you've got ready to go veggie stock that you made from veggie scraps and didn't have to pay any money for. So that's what we're gonna do. So here's the thing, I know these three big pots look a little bit intimidating. I don't know if I'm gonna be doing all three of them, but you kind of have to make a lot of veggie stock in order to reduce it down and have very much paste left over. If you just do one small pot, you're gonna have such a trivial amount of paste that you're gonna feel like you've wasted your time. So you might need to do a pretty large amount of veggie stock. And like I said, I usually do it from all of my frozen veggie scraps from when we're cooking. But I might supplement with some carrots because I don't think I cooked with very much carrots for this batch. If you don't have any scraps, just take a mixture of carrots, onions, celery, maybe some peppercorns. I usually use coriander seed, bay leaves, and garlic. And you can make your own big batch of veggie stock and then just slowly reduce it down. So I'm going to show you how long it takes me to do that. And so let's get started. All I'm going to do is fill these pots up with all of my frozen veggie scraps and top it off with water. Okay, I'm going to throw in some basil and rosemary just because that's what I'm growing in the garden right now. And I've got tons. Here I've got some coriander seeds. I'm not measuring, I'm just going for it. Maybe a tablespoon or so in each of these big pots. Oop, that's more than a tablespoon, but whatever. Some whole peppercorns, same thing, maybe a tablespoon or so in each. And bay leaves, I'm gonna just put a few bay leaves there, a few in there. And let's just cover it with water and heat it up to a boil. I love these 20-quart pots so much. I use them for just about everything. Baking big beans and canning beans, doing veggie stock, everything. They're really handy. So I like to start by covering them just till they get up to a boil. And then as soon as they're there, I'll turn it down to medium-low and just keep a nice simmer. And then after that, we'll strain out all the veggies and we'll start reducing it. All right, that was like 20 quarts of veggie stock that I just made. And so I'm gonna heat it back up to a boil, and I'm gonna keep it at more of a rolling boil now that all of the veggies are out of it. And we're just gonna let it reduce. Don't put it too high, and then as it starts to thicken, it's gonna take many hours. And as it starts to thicken, then we're gonna have to turn the heat lower and lower and lower, and we are on our way. All right, this is getting pretty thick. It's been almost 4 hours. And I've got 20 quarts down to just a little bit here. And I'm gonna transfer it into a smaller pot. And now we'll start the reduction again and keep a close eye on it now, because as it starts to really thicken up, you're gonna need less and less temperature to keep it rolling. So you don't want it to get too hot and burn. All right, you can see now it's really starting to thicken up and turn a little bit syrupy. So be careful with the heat here. You want to keep turning it down so that it's not boiling too hard. You don't want it to burn. Okay, it's looking pretty thick. I think we are there. Just pour it into the mason jar. Well, it is that simple to make your own homemade veggie bouillon out of your own veggie scraps, so totally free. Now you can just throw this jar in the freezer once it cools, and it should stay a nice dense paste. If it becomes rock hard, then that just means you didn't reduce it enough and there's too much water left in there, so it was turning into ice. So next time, you could just store this one in the fridge and use it like that. And then next time, reduce it a little bit more and put it in the freezer. I also have been playing with the idea to reduce this down like this, and then once I have a lot, I can put it into the freeze dryer and turn it into a veggie broth powder, which I could then use to make some sort of like a spice mix, so that I could, say, cook my beans with a little bit of the veggie stock powder and garlic powder and that, or I could also been working on making a homemade ramen that is SOS free that I can take backpacking and whatnot. So this is pretty awesome in a paste, but I'm also going to try to make it into a powder, and you'll be the first to know about it. This does need to at least stay in the fridge. It is not able to just sit at room temperature. You're going to want to keep it at least in the fridge. I don't know how long it'll last in the fridge, probably a pretty long time. In the freezer, I think it'll last a very long time, many months. You've got a large supply here. This was, remember, I reduced this from like 20 quarts down to 1 little pint. So that's quite a lot of reduction. If you were to taste this, I think you would find it pretty disgusting because it is ultra concentrated in its current state. And it only takes maybe like a half teaspoon to make a pint or even more of veggie stock. So test it out, find what works, but that is the big idea. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.